Good morning, YouTubers. This is Gus Estacio from Healing X Outreach. Just a little bit of play on the last video I did about Stephen being, disappointed with Israel, particularly to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, comparing them to the heathens in the camp. You know, the the worshippers of false gods in Israel, whether it's kings, prophets, or peoples. And you find that Stephen's disappointment is not just Stephen's disappointment, but ironically, in a chapter that Mikey has spoken about, you find Stephen's speech very reminiscent in its disappointment as Jehovah's speech. In Deuteronomy chapter 32, and I'm not going to read because it's a very long chapter. But if you read the whole chapter, it's pretty much Jehovah or Yahweh being disappointed in the people that he brought through the wilderness because of their continuous worshiping false gods. And incident after incident after incident, we know about them. If we're former Jehovah's Witnesses, we had a lot of dramas about these incidents in the wilderness. But let me just read a little bit about Jehovah's disappointment, which was also Stephen's disappointment, about false worship in the camp. And I'll start with verse 12, chapter 32, verse 12. So the Lord alone led them, and there was no foreign god with them. He raised them on the strength of the land. He fed them on the produce of the fields. He suckled them on honey from the rock and oil from the solid rock, butter of oxen and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and goats, of sons of bulls and goats, with the choicest wheat, and you drank wine, the blood of grapes. So Jacob ate and was filled, and the beloved kicked. He grew fat, he grew thick, he is a beast. Then he forsook God who made him and stood back from God his Savior. They provoked me to wrath against foreign gods. With their abominations they embittered me. They sacrificed to demons and not to God. To gods they did not know, new ones, recent gods arrived, which their fathers did not know. You abandoned the God who begot you and forgot the God who nourished you. So the Lord saw it and was jealous, and he was provoked to anger by his sons and daughters. Then he said, I will turn my face from them, and I will make known what their end will be. For they are a perverse generation, sons in whom is no faith. They provoke me to jealousy by what is not God. And if you were to read the entirety of the chapter, I think it goes to, I'll just pick out certain sections. Of course, God is saying, look, I gave you everything you needed. I gave you everything you wanted. You were fat under me. I took care of you, and then you went and worshipped other gods. And this is Yahweh speaking. Verse 30, how could one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight unless God had sold them and the Lord delivered them up? God, you won these battles because of me. You were outnumbered, and yet you still won the victories. For our God is not like their small g gods, but our enemies are foolish. And let's go all the way to, here goes one of my favorite, verse 39, where God uses the I am reference, ego eimi. Now see, even I am he. Here God is saying, I am the true God. I am the eternal one. I am the uncaused cause. This is the true God speaking. And there is no God besides me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Nor is there any who deliver from my hands. For I raise my hand to heaven. I swear by my right hand and say, as I live forever. So, it's an entire chapter of the rebellion of Israel to God, Jehovah, Yahweh, El. It's the same thing that Stephen was bringing out to the Pharisees and Sadducees and forsaking Jesus as the Messiah. That they were forsaking Yahweh of the Old Testament. That they were following after false gods by rejecting the Messiah. And because of his equation of Yeshua to Yahweh is why they picked up stones to kill him. Because that is blasphemy. To equate Yahweh to a man is blasphemy. Stephen's disappointment is Jehovah's disappointment in Deuteronomy 32. And I just wanted to bring that point out. They both have the same disappointment in the Jewish people, in their choosing, despite what was going around them, false worship. How do we discern a false god from the true God? The same way we discern a false prophet from the true prophet. By the deeds. A false prophet is a false prophet because he tells false prophecy and it doesn't come to pass. The true God is the true God because not only does he give prophecy that comes to pass, but we have the evidence of his works. And if you go out in Israel, there's an encampment of Sodom and Gomorrah, the site, where it has brimstone balls, unlike anywhere in the world, of the most pure brimstone. Proof that the God of the Old Testament struck down the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, it was 6 cities actually, with fire from heaven. Not just any ordinary fire, but the purest fire, unlike anywhere in the world, and we still have that evidence to this day. All the walls of Jericho. You know, archaeology is opening the doors to the truthfulness of the Old Testament historical battles. And not only the historicity of it, but the fact that there was a supernatural element to these victories that was told in the pages of the Bible, came to pass as the pages of the Bible recorded them, and we have the evidence today. We have the most evidence that we've ever had in support for the Bible, and yet we have the largest amount of skepticism. The Jehovah of the Old Testament is not the devil. The disappointment of Stephen is the same disappointment of Yahweh in Deuteronomy 32. And those who would say otherwise are ignorant. They're ignorant. Well, that's all I wanted to share. You have a blessed day. There's a growing constituency of ignorance in a time where we have the most data in our support. That's what's really insane and crazy. You have the most ignorance in the time when we have the most information. It's crazy. You have a blessed Sunday. Bye-bye.